right. Hey, audience, thank you so much for tuning in and watching Renfield. We are here for a crew commentary. We're going to all introduce ourselves before we get started. Ridley, kick us off.
Hi, I'm Ryan Ridley, writer.
I'm Noah Cody, post-production, editorial.
I'm Nancy Nugent-Title, supervising sound editor.
John Marquez, supervising sound editor and sound design.
Dave Cole, supervising digital colorist.
Hi, I'm Jamie Price, visual effects supervisor.
And I'm Christian Tinsley, makeup and makeup effects.
Nice, and I'm Samantha Nissenboim. I'm the producer of the film. We're going to get started here with our coda scene. Ryan, it would be great to kind of talk about how this idea of codependency came into your head and how you kind of landed on this group format, this dynamic.
Living it, life.
Been there.
Well, the original treatment that Robert Kirkman wrote had
Took me traveling.
I think it was like a more vague support group that he would use to poach victims from, and it didn't really have a specific concept. So the concept of codependency when you're a guy like Renfield working for a guy like Dracula seemed like a fairly obvious, I don't know, allegory? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm the writer. Is that what that means? Metaphor?
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was a lot. Maybe we should just back up to the beginning.
We got our intro of Cage here coming in pretty hot. Jamie, do you want to just dive into kind of how we landed on this flashback and start talking about their relationship?
Yeah, this was a fun way for us to sort of introduce the relationship between the two characters. And in terms of the shots and the effects, we were able to access the original 1931 Dracula footage from Universal and then shoot elements of Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult to replace into that footage. And there were a lot of interesting lighting and technical decisions that we had to make when we did that, and that carried through all the way into the final color of the film.
Yeah, and this idea actually wasn't even in the original script. It was something that McKay had brought to the table just to be able to talk about their backstory, because we wanted to make sure they were familiar with the relationship and put them in present day. Believe it or not, there are people on this earth who don't even know who Renfield is. So this felt like a really great intro. And the people that have seen the movie, we're recording this before the movie's even come out, you guys. The people that have seen this movie have been really responsive to it.
They come to an end.
The hunters have returned.
Yes, the bugs. This comes up a lot. Dracula's powers come from consuming human life. Mine come from eating bugs. Make sense? Great. Now, where were we?
Look at all this blood, Tinsley.
Yeah.
What do you say? I mean...
Well, you know, I'm one of those people that this is my first time seeing it, so I'm kind of soaking it all in, reliving the moments, seeing the beautiful work that James and his entire team's done. Because, you know, when you're making it, you don't see this. You see a part of this, right? Where we've created a world outside of what the set was and what some of the lighting is.
The set is really incredible. I feel like we have to take a moment here and really recognize Alec Hammond, who unfortunately is shooting in Thailand, can't be with us, but created some really incredible sets that we'll continue to highlight through the rest of the thing.
Yeah, and actually this is a good example of where some of the creative needs of the story drove very strongly what the decisions were on building the set. You know, there's a moment coming up here that Kristen can talk a little bit more than I can, but really dictated that we needed a set and not a location for this.
Yeah, because we had scouted a really cool location in New Orleans and pivoted it really at the last minute. We were building this thing literally on the day until we were shooting. It was the absolute last sequence that we shot because we needed to build out this library. We needed all that time.
Yeah, I remember walking into that space maybe 2 days before we were going to be shooting in it going, is this going to be ready in time?
Yeah. People were working 7 days a week, pulling overnights, split shifts. We have to give a huge, massive thanks to our crew because they were so dedicated.
I was not expecting that.
Glad the exploding body worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we literally lit a guy on fire here. We had an incredible team of stunt doubles who were willing to go balls to the walls on every fucking scene, everything that we pitched them. They would one-up us. So we didn't only light him on fire once, but twice.
I think it's also important to note that we blew up the priest on Palm Sunday.
Oh, him.
And that it's Fright Night's William Ragsdale.
Yes.
Who is the hero fighting vampires in the original movie.
That's right. That's right. Fright Night. Yeah.
And then it's up to me to clean up the mess.
Well, and the stuntman who got caught on fire there,
Spencer.
He was claustrophobic, so the mask he had to wear, and he doesn't like fire. So he was terrified.
I would have never known
that entire
on
time.
The day,
Yeah.
because he was such a champ.
Is he scared of heights? That would have been the trifecta.
I know, right?
Which brings us back here.
Does anybody have further thoughts on kind of the coda scene? I know Ryan teed it up for us, but just that relationship, the group dynamic. I'm such a fan of Brandon Scott Jones. I think he did such a great job as the leader of the group.
He's also
Yeah, he's awesome. His lines in the trailer seem to get the big responses, right?
Yeah, he's crushing it.
I fucking hate that shit.
And all this, a lot of this was just improv from us dicking around early days. You know, the way that Chris McKay approaches filmmaking is he loves to put an animatic in place ahead of shooting stuff. So we will lean on our storyboard artists, we'll lean on our editors like Noah, and kind of build out the movie before we even shoot a single frame. And that's when we have time to get really silly and just try stuff like, I hate that fucking shit, talking about ska music. It wasn't always ska. At first it was Rush, and then we tried to land on a couple other spots. But it's a very long process before we even on day one of shooting a camera.
And Jenna
Cannell, yeah.
Cannell?
Carol.
Oh my God. Yeah, she's amazing. She wrote a bunch of lines that were like, I was like, oh my God, just can you do a whole pass on the whole movie? This is amazing. Like the stuff she would not just improvise, but actually have lines written for a character were amazing. I think some of them are later in the movie.
Did her own stunts, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, she did. She was flipped through the air.
And unfortunately, I don't think what a lot of people are getting from this is when we did the camera test with her, as well as on the days of shooting, she could cry at a moment's notice on the spot. Like, she was instant with whatever you needed her to do, emotionally.
Yeah.
And it was pretty impressive.
It'll never make their problems go away. But I can.
This is a fun beat coming up here when Renfield eats the cockroach. We gave him a edible cockroach prop to put into his mouth, and we intentionally played the scene dark so that when his eyes lit up, we'd have a little opportunity to see them and frame the iris inside his eyes.
What are you doing over there, buddy?
Yeah, a little Easter egg for those who are Chris McKay fans. Keith, who's this guy with the beard, Keith Brooks, he was also in the Tomorrow War for a minute. So Chris loves working with the same actors over and over again and loves to kind of pop his actors into these spots where he can.
You never set your picnic up next to a pile of dog shit. Okay.
Another detail I know that he mentioned as we were working on the scene is that when Mitch here leans over to do a line, he's using a tiny Hoover vacuum cleaner.
Yes.
Which I wish you could see. It's just such an amazing detail.
It's great. We had an incredible prop master, Gary Tours, who we also worked with on the Tomorrow War, and Gary did a great job. He was actually the one responsible for making all the edible bugs that Holt consumed throughout the course of production. There was only one bug, the potato bug, that Holt absolutely hated the taste of and said, I won't eat those bugs, but I'll eat the others.
Prima donna.
Such a trooper. I did not try any bugs, even though I was invited to.
I'm a friend of Caitlin.
And I just want to highlight Chris Brewster again, who was our stunt coordinator and also got to direct some of the second unit as well. But he came on pretty early, about 6 months prior to the start of shooting, to start designing all of our action sequences. And it was Noah who was really responsible for cutting the majority of the action on this film, which looks so badass. But Brewster was turning around previses for us pretty quickly, and they were the driving force of a lot of the action scenes, just as we were thinking about where to shoot stuff, what locations, how to frame the camera. A lot of it all came down to Brewster and his incredible work. And we wanted him to be here with us today, but he's based in Atlanta, so it wasn't able to happen.
He's awesome. He was really cool to get to know and watch him work on set, and just like finding out all the amazing sequences he designed for Marvel movies. And are we allowed to talk about competing studios?
Sure. Why not?
Unnamed franchise films. He would just do these, like the famous Daredevil fight scene in Netflix's, Daredevil show. It's like, whoa, you did that? Fact check me. Did he do that?
Yeah,
I think he did.
He
Okay.
did that one.
Okay. What's the opposite of slander when you just like say lies that are
Praise.
good?
And here's our introduction to Ben Schwartz. Really fun to be able to cast Ben Schwartz in a villain role, something he hasn't really done a lot of. We forced
Is
him
he a
to-
villain? Do we know that he's a villain yet?
Oh, shoot.
No.
Well, you'll soon find out. He's promoting himself as the villain
Oh,
now
good,
on his
good.
Instagram. So, but if you guys want to jump into all this awesome fucking practical stuff,
Oh, I'm enjoying, again, all the.
we should have let you watch the movie.
Well, I'm enjoying all the marriage between all the different parties involved.
Yeah, a lot of
the set design,
lot of
Alec,
good
he pulled this
collaboration.
together again, and I think in a week or two because there were some adjustments
Yeah,
made to this
yeah.
scene. Everything.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
I think also it's probably a good thing to note that Nick Holt did a lot of his own stunts.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, he
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Again,
So looking at those
Brewster-
dailies when they came in, and yeah, I mean, a lot of times what we do is we take Brewster's edit of the fight sequence and then initially just overcut, the best takes over top of what he had put together in the fight sequence, and then from there, we could narrow it down and look at better takes and really finesse it. But yeah, Nicholas Holt's stunts he was amazing.
yeah,
he was really great.
he's great. Brewster gave us a schedule of how he kind of wanted to construct working with Nick, the amount of time that he wanted with him. And in his first day, Nick learned 3 of the choreographies that he needed. And so we were able to truncate his training schedule down because the guy is that good. He's just so incredible.
Yeah, you could tell for sure.
I'm Teddy fucking Lobo!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And here is Miss Aquafina and Adrian Martinez, who are partners in this movie. It was really, really great having a chance to work with these 2 talents and just to be able to bring another level of energy and comedy to the film. A lot of fun.
Don't move! Hands on the wheel! I got a prescription!
And as you can see, we are outside. It is dark out. When you're shooting a Dracula movie, there's a lot of nights.
A lot of nights.
A lot of cold nights.
Unfortunately, I asked that question too late in pre-production. It hit me one day, and I called. I called and said, "Wait, this is a vampire movie. We're going to shoot a lot of nights." And they're like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
It's like shit.
After decades of being chased
And this location, too, is super interesting. This is an actual abandoned hospital in New Orleans. It was abandoned after Hurricane Katrina. So this hallway, this all takes place in the hospital. And then this is a set. So you can see how seamlessly Alec was able to make this transition. And I just think we all need to take a moment to just look at how gorgeous this set is. It was so incredible. Again, one of the last things that we shot because of the amount of time that it took to build this thing, the amount of detail. Should we talk about Cage's phases?
So this is sort of phase 1. This is what we were calling the Picasso phase. And Chris McKay coined that because he was really looking at the beginning to find this Picasso-esque silhouette. So if you notice, the ear is dropped to one side, pushed forward, so as Dracula is sort of rejuvenating here and becoming a whole human being again, we see this sort of contorted figure, and that's how we came about it.
Chest, arm, head.
Chest, arms, head, hands, pretty much everything from the waist up.
Yeah. And how long was Cage sitting in the chair just to get this look?
This was definitely his most extensive look. So we were 3.5 hours, I think, on this one with everything.
Yeah. So he has to show up for work, sit and do all of this for 3.5 hours, and then work an entire 12-hour day
12 hours.
in this getup.
And then another hour to get him out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, these were long days for Nick.
Don't make it a sexual...
But the thing about, Cage is he really embraced the whole process, which, at first when I had the conversation with him back when we were doing his cast and getting him prepped for this, I did warn him and I said, look, this is going to be taxing on the body. And all actors kind of go, oh, yeah, no, that's great. No, I get it. No, whatever it takes. But he was truly one of those actors and individuals who every day really enjoyed the process of getting into it. Once he was in it, he didn't want to be bothered because he wanted to live in that moment and sort of feel what that was and just, do what he needed to do. But getting into it, he was a big fan.
It must be difficult to be caught between their rules and mine.
And this location was also the first time, the meeting at the start, you get a feel of a look that we're doing on the movie, but this particularly really leans into some artwork you might have seen in the past of these real strong primary colors. So this was, let's introduce the lair in not a typical dark, moody, black and white kind of world, but the antithesis of that.
Yeah, color and saturation is something that's consistently so important to McKay. Dave, do you want to talk about how that influences the work that you do when you guys are in the room together?
Yeah, it's all about getting like the separation so that we can hold the characters out from backgrounds, give nuance and a vibrancy to it. I mean, part of what we were trying to do in this film was it's still horror. I mean, we laugh a lot, but it's still horror, but it's not necessarily dark horror, moody horror. It's vibrant day glow kind of horror, but it doesn't mean that the things that are happening are not horrific. Mm-hmm. So it gives this audience, this dilemma of, where am I sitting? And so they enjoy themselves, but they shouldn't be as they're seeing someone being sliced open. But we did do a lot of that nuance. And then we'd go to locations like here in the police station, which you could, in inverted commas, say was a more traditional, normal look. So we wanted to be able to ride throughout the whole movie the ebbs and flows of where we're going with colour. So one, the audience stays engaged and gets drawn into it. But also when it goes into these full kind of fantasy sequences, you're really brought into that. And then when it goes more to the mundane, typical world, it's more what you expect to see.
Yeah, well, it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so surreal when you get into those moments. It's unsettling. I love the fact that you guys went in that direction. That was Chris's drive.
And it was a lot of work. So there was obviously a lot of Mitch Armisen shot with a lot of colourful lights, but then really taking that as the foundation and then really going to town with all of those cues and really embracing it and shaping the scenes and adding new colours in there and pulling it out.
Finding that balance to bring in the saturation and treat all the different worlds, but not bring it into that electronic realm or over the top.
Yeah, the whole thing is, not making it look video-y. I mean, we're making a feature film. We want it to feel organic and real, so it's always about, threading that needle of vibrancy and over the top, but not going into just crazy synthetic electronic world.
And even though we shot the film digitally and with anamorphic lenses, you still added a filmic look on top of it.
Yeah, so there's a full emulation layer on here. So for the geeks, it's not just about putting grain. Grain is just one element of what film does. We also have fluctuations of levels independently. On the red, green, blue, we have blurs, we have distortions and warps, emulating if we duped the negative onto an IP. So we have halations in highlights, so what the celluloid would do. So there was a lot of stages to take it, more into that film world and out of the digital realm. Then there's things that we use, lookup tables to change color, and then just the creative shaping. I mean, there's lots of hand-drawn shapes basically over the entire image, and they're fully animated, everything to shadow, various regions and to direct the eye of where we need to look, because especially in the action scenes, some of these shots aren't up for very long, so you need to make sure the audience really key into what they should be looking at any particular time.
Yeah, Chris is not one for subtlety. It's like he wants everything at maximum volume for the whole duration. And so, yeah, that was our challenge too on the sound side, was like every one of these fight sequences, it was like, I want that louder. I want that louder than that. And it's just about carving these, the contrast between the silences and the peaks and the valleys to make sure that all those peaks would read. And so by the time you got to the end of the scene, you're not taxed, you're not just overwhelmed.
And the sound work that you guys, that everyone did in the abandoned hospital where, Dracula cuts open Renfield's stomach.
Yeah.
All the squirty, sort of viscera stuff that, like, even when, Dracula moves his head when he's like kind of questioning what Renfield's actually saying, that gets me laughing every time.
Totally. It's the little details.
It's subtlety.
Like, and that's Chris, though. It's like, we'll be on the stage and, the process is never done.
Yeah.
You're always working, and, we just keep working. And that's like the joy, the double-edged sword of it all is you have so much fun. You're always inventing. You're always kind of like trying to decide, well, that's not something we can go back and redo, but we can keep pushing it forward this way. And it's really.
I'm sure if we all had 3 months more of this film, we would have full days.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
For sure.
But those little things were fun, cherry picking, like just little details.
Yeah.
Gore. So much gore. My
The
God.
shot of back in that scene that you talked about, Noah, where
where
Dracula pulls on the vein
vein.
and snaps
Oh, yeah.
it. I mean, every time that
gross.
Every time that shot went by, I had
Did
to
I
close
miss
my
it?
eyes.
I missed it. Didn't I?
Yeah.
I saw the draining of the blood. I saw the drain of the blood.
It is visceral.
I'm trying to take in the whole scene, and so I'm missing moments.
I'm going to set up a screening for you, Christian.
Also, fun fact, I think the lawyer
Yes.
in the scene, she's from
Caroline Williams.
Caroline
Yeah.
Williams. She's from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right.
For you Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 fans.
Yes, again, Mr. McKay, king of the Easter eggs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is a real restaurant. A lot of stuff that we did in New Orleans was all based on real locations, just putting our spin on it. So we spent about a week here in the restaurant and got to come back, actually, to finish some stuff that we had started that we just ran out of time on.
Yeah, this was an amazing dress of that location, using the original name, but adding all the signage and all the decoration inside.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Tim LeBlanc, our dialogue and music re-recording mixer, lived in
He's from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were just talking about all these locations and all the, this is where so-and-so got married even, see that little, all kinds of little details.
Well, anybody who's been to New Orleans knows this location. They might not know it as they see it in the film, but you've been by here if you haven't been there yourself.
And Ryan, you've spent a lot of time in New Orleans. Once we kind of landed on that as the location, did you have any kind of like inspiration that you drew from the city? Was it helpful kind of going on those location scouts with us? Did it bring something to the table for you?
Yeah. Trying to think. I don't know. New Orleans brings a lot to the table in the form of things that are making me forget what it brought to the table from a creative point of view.
Well, it's also, you guys got to give us a break because, we shot this movie about a year ago now. And when we were doing the scouts and stuff, it was the summer of 2021. And we're recording this, it's, March of 2023. So it's been a minute since we were doing the deep dive on all this stuff.
Yeah.
Move and I'll blow your fucking head off.
A few more bugs in this scene. Happy to say no bugs were harmed in the making of this movie. They're digital when they come out of his little coffin box carrier. And also the fly we're going to see coming up here is fully digital.
Almost. Nobody.
Yeah, in fact, this was our first week of shooting.
Yes.
This was our introduction to the...
February 6th.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So
That's
everybody
'cause we
was
had
finding our
Coda.
feet, and we were
Yes.
just,
Oh, man.
finding the rhythm of the shooting
true.
schedule and everything else, yeah.
Yes, and I want to give a shout out to our costume designer, Lisa Lavas. It was her idea actually to make the masks of the Lobo gang to be wolves because Lobo in Spanish means wolf. But her work and Allison Vendrick, the assistant costume designer, they were incredible. I really especially am in love with all of Shore's outfits. And
yeah.
Nora really has always wanted to play a cop. Sorry, Aquafina. Has always wanted to play a cop. And so when she first put on her costume, she just embraced it and loved it so much.
Is her line referring to the masks as Party City Scarecrow dogs in there? I couldn't hear it. But
I
that was
don't
her
think
ad
so.
lib.
That's
No.
out. Yeah.
That was her
I
ad
love
lib.
that line. That
I
was a
think
good
Alex
line.
did one of your boys do
Yeah.
it for you.
Yeah.
I loved that improv too.
So many good jokes and stuff on every movie. You know, you
Yeah.
get
I mean,
sacrificed to the greater
what
good.
Ryan wrote for this whole restaurant scene, there was just an amazing back and forth about receipts and this and that and the other was just hilarious. And there's so much stuff that I wish we could jam it all into the movie, but it would leave you with a 3-hour film. And we wanted to make it a fun comedy.
Yeah, I think when we met with Chris to talk to them about this movie, wasn't Nancy? This was one of the first
This was one of the
scenes he
first
ever
scenes
showed
we
us. The
s- we
first scene he
saw,
ever cut,
yeah.
and it definitely set a tone for like what we were in.
I don't want
Was
to.
in store, but yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's right.
I was just gonna say I don't want to speak for Marco and the music team, but I know in editorial, before they started writing music to this, I know Chris and the rest of the editorial team, we really struggled with music in this scene for some reason. The other fight scenes in the movie, music kind of the music that we cut in sort of cut itself, and it really we had fun no matter what we put in the movie. For some reason, this scene in particular. It came out great. I think it's really nice.
It's a great
but
piece of score.
yeah, it's a
So
really,
catchy.
really good piece of score, but we couldn't figure out if it should be an actual song or if it should be all score or if it should be just punches and scratches or knife eyeball gouges. But what we landed on sounds great.
Yeah.
And look at this guy. He goes up.
Never comes down.
Never comes back.
down. He got,
Oh, he comes down.
maybe he got impaled at the top.
He went out the roof.
Ah.
That's what we decided.
Nice.
Just gone.
Yeah. How do you kind of come up with what sound design sounds like when somebody shoves a fork into your neck? That must have been a new one for you.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
it
don't
was,
think I've ever done a knife.
I thought
or
it was
a fork.
corn. What was it? Corn on the cob or
Oh,
something?
there was,
That was the vampire
that
bite.
was,
that-
Chris was very particular about his
wanted to
vampire
sound like a
bites,
corn
and
cob.
so they needed to be more corn cob, please. That would be. Can we get more of the corn cob?
His most frequent request would be more bone crunch.
More bone
More
crunch.
bone crunch, more cracking, and I mean, he was, Chris is just super visceral, and so he really wants whatever sound's going to communicate the gore or the,
and the impact, whatever's going to
yeah.
really turn your stomach.
yeah, turn everything else down. Let's hear just that element of it.
Are you from around here? Or
And I will say one of the reasons Chris showed us the scene first was because the audio for, different reasons was almost completely unusable that was shot on set that day in this exchange, unfortunately. So luckily, these two actors are amazing at looping, which is replacing dialogue after the fact. And it's not all loops in here, but it's a good mix of, and this woman as well, who I can't remember her name, she was great.
Yeah.
everyone please just line up for me?
This is my favorite background
Holding the wine.
player.
Holding
Yes.
the wine. That's, yeah.
Still holding her wine. And you need a glass of wine after
That's right.
an event like that, right? But so yeah, pretty much everything in this scene is constructed sonically after the fact.
Yeah, and the manager of the restaurant also has a cameo in this scene. We gave people a lot of cameos, like the guy who owned the building where Renfield gets his apartment. He gets a little bit in the movie.
Oh, is he the landlord in the movie?
Yeah, yeah.
Kind is that?
Heroes.
We always kind of referred to this moment, when we were looking at the end of the movie, and such an important line from Renfield that he hears Rebecca say heroes. It's important to remind ourselves, that he really wants to be a hero.
Forgotten what it feels like. Maybe there is hope. Maybe she can.
That lip, the wet upper lip is just
Extra
so
wet.
gross. Moist.
I don't think I've ever seen a Dracula have the teeth like that, where they're all pointed.
Is it
It's
the
one of
center
first
tooth?
things that jumped out
Yeah.
at me.
We had a lot of conversations, Chris McKay and myself and the team, about, what makes a different Dracula and what's a good set of teeth that we can do with them. And, Chris had this idea of doing multiple sharp teeth. And so we kind of went with this idea that we would create more than the average set of human teeth and put a lot of little ones in between the fangs, just giving this more vicious sort of feel to his normal looks. Rather than isolating fangs that grow, he just looks like he has a more predatory sort of set of dentures. That was kind of the idea, and that's where the design was born from.
His ratty hair kills me.
Oh, the hair,
It's
yes.
so funny. It's like baby hair.
Ew.
It is. Wispy.
Wispy.
Yeah, wispy. Yeah.
Not coarse at all.
Christian, was
just
his
roll your
time
fingers
in the
through that.
chair similar for this look? 'Cause this one was very intensive as well.
This one was pretty intensive. I think we did about 2.5 hours on this one. We didn't have the full body because it wasn't as exposed. But yeah, definitely an extensive, neck up sort of prosthetic. I mean, pretty much every inch of his skin is covered here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this entire society was designed by Renfield.
But yeah, in the earlier tests, that's when we were sort of discovering how light was going to be picking up on it in these scenes, and the spectrum hadn't been completely decided upon at that point. We knew there was going to be shades of red and green, and so once we started adding some sheen to the skin and playing with some of the colors, that's when it really kind of stood out to everybody that he just needs to be wet. He just needs to look like a wet sore.
That was part of the sound of it too, is that there was always a track, right, of like
what, like
Dracula's skin, like
Yeah, I think we refer to it as just like
gooey.
the sticky flesh, like a little sticky flesh there.
Yeah, just a walking open wound.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to collaborate a bunch with Mitch and Andy to try to figure out, what it was going to look like once we threw Cage in there.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you get these types of colors bouncing off of objects and especially skin, it sort of desaturates and pulls the life out of things. And so in some ways you just go with it and you allow it to be what it is and reflect truthfully what it would be. And then in other ways you want to augment your palette to pull certain ideas out of the makeup or out of the look of something. So
what brought you?
Yeah, especially when you're spending too, on behalf of Cage, so much time in the chair, really making sure that his look pops. And we spend so much time on it in prep, kind of landing on what it would be.
I mean, we use a lot of bright yellows that you don't see here, but they show up as lighter tones to contrast the darker shades, which are really just red tones, which go darker under this kind of, lighting. So if you see a photo behind the scenes of the trailer, he looks like a Crayola color palette, like 12 color box that you would get when you were in school. Really colorful and bright.
Speaking of that, when you did the black and whites footage, what color makeup did he have there? Because traditionally, that people would be quite green, because when it was actually shot on black and white, it would read the highest contrast. So you guys didn't shoot on black and white, you shot on color, but was there any particular choices of the makeup for the black and white?
We enhanced it in somewhat respects to what they would have done, 80 years ago. We went heavy pancake makeups, a lot of highlights and shadows, eyeliner, lipstick on Nicholas Hoult here as Renfield. We did blush just to bring some life into him, partly to kind of go with the look that they had back then, which sort of conveyed a theatrical feel. So we wanted to play a little bit with that and then give something for post to play with when, changing it to black and white. Still keeping some life in the character.
Yeah, what would happen? Stop focus on his knees. What would happen?
He won't grow to full power.
Exactly. He won't grow to full power. What? That's so weird. Why would you phrase it like that? But yeah.
Great reading of that line.
Yeah, my favorite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big shout out to Rich D'Elia, who is our casting director, who really helped us find Brandon. He's just awesome. And the New Orleans casting, Liz Coulon, also helped us populate this room specifically very well. The group dynamic here was just on fire. They had such good camaraderie and such a good rhythm. And we shot this too, even though it was indoors. We shot this at night, and it was very taxing being in this gym.
I see a smile there because you like it. Now say it like the world needs to hear it.
I'm gonna grow to full.
One of the things we struggle with editorial is this just, we always wanted to cut to the people, around the room, because there's so many good performances from the various, side characters and things like that. So making it, impactful with just the people we ended up cutting to here, but also just, that's staying true to Renfield and Mark's story.
Interesting thing here is like there's a little bit more life here as he's doing his apartment, but as soon as that roller paints on, that's really goosed up, and then the color in his apartment really starts to pop because it's as he's kind of, removing himself a little bit from Dracula and getting back to his own world. We wanted to bring an excitement of life back to Renfield.
Let's give him some ideas.
Did that then change the look of Coda when we went back there, or did you guys keep that consistent from beginning to end?
Pretty much Coda looks the same, except for maybe the very last scene of the movie because there's a bit more daylight coming through it. But the basic elements of Coda was with the lighting, so those colors were there, but there was a lot of augmentation in the grade to really separate and to make the colors way more vivid. So like the greeny cyans really separate to the oranges and all of the spotlights that are coming through windows and everything like that. So we would have a general common palette, but again, depending the scenes we're coming from and going to, sometimes that jump is too much.
Right,
sometimes it's not enough. So you kind of have to tailor it, but based on rules that you create yourself as you're going through. Same with this is like, we spoke briefly about the police station before. If you compare these, there's a bit more life now because this is we're maybe getting to know, who are these? Yeah. So especially in wardrobe, Nick's sweater there has been, chosen in wardrobe for its color.
Right.
We enhanced that color in there, and even Aquafina's blue of the shirt. Like everything is a little more here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's subtleties, but it's this subliminal thing. As the movie progresses, you will see where life exists and where life doesn't.
Right.
It really means a lot.
It means a lot that I can...
Yeah, we all loved that sweater the first time Nick put it on.
I like the patchwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good outtakes.
Yeah, and that flower bit was in and it was out, and then Nick actually really wanted it, so we had shot it because it was important to him.
Everyone who's ever lived in fear of the powerful forces shaping their lives. Okay? And you need to keep doing that, because when people like you...
We tried a lot of stuff between Renfield and Rebecca. Ryan, is there stuff that you miss, or is there stuff that you love from their relationship?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of between in the multiple drafts versus what was, because there was some
Even just in this scene, like we had rats.
Yeah, that
we did at one point.
I mean, I definitely. Yeah, are there any rats in the movie? I don't think
there's not. We tried pretty hard to keep the rats in for as long as we could, but apparently rats are very expensive.
Oh, you wouldn't think.
But there was
just rats. You know what I mean? They're everywhere.
They're unionized, I think.
Yeah. No, of course I missed the rat stuff. That would have been great. Just more the weirdness of Renfield's world infringing upon his attempt at normalcy for sure.
You have until the end of the day to find him and kill him.
Again, when we go to the Lobos, it's all about gold. So we wanted the richness and the ostentatious nature and opulence that they live in. So there's lots of gold statues, columns, jewelry. Like it's
they're so opulent.
Teddy Lobo was fleeing from the same
And,
location
Ben and Shorey also had such great chemistry. I think they didn't meet until probably the table read or the camera test, but that first camera test with the two of them was so hilarious. They were just embracing each other as this very creepy mother-son combo and playing around with all the props in the world. And
I think there might be some of the camera test stuff for Bella and Shorey in the credits, in the very end credits.
Make sure to stick around and watch the end credits, because we did pop in some camera test stuff, some Easter eggs, things that are
blooper reel?
That's
Is there
great.
a blooper reel in the credits?
There's no blooper reel, but it's the closest thing we could get.
Okay.
There'd be some good bloopers. I mean, you could do a whole film just with Ben Schwartz's outtakes. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
and you get a couple of little tastes in the trailers of some shots that aren't in the movie, but they're in the trailer.
True.
Yeah, all right.
This was one of those nights where we had to double dip, right, Jamie? We were at the restaurant and you were here?
Yep, directing over here. And this is another nice hookup between what was our location and now what is our set build.
Yeah.
Seamless.
Yeah, Ben improv'd a lot of amazing stuff that would have loved to have seen. He's brilliant. And a good guy. Ben, if you're listening.
Ben, we wish you were here.
Going back to the camera test thing, I remember when we were on location, Chris had me put together some stuff for the camera test, and we ended up showing Holt and Cage, and seeing the look on their faces, getting super excited to shoot, was pretty heartwarming. It was great. They were just so pumped to be in this movie.
Yeah, there was so much camaraderie, and I think it was so helpful that our offices and stages were in the same spot because we could very seamlessly run from shooting something up to editorial to check something out, and it was, you know, a whole community of us that were making this thing together, and you could really feel that day to day, their commitment and their care.
Teddy? Do you know who the fuck I am? Teddy?
I actually climbed on top of one of those wolves in the background one day for a photo.
Who are you?
And Tinsley, what about this look?
Oh, well, this is what we're going to call our stage 2, because we had 4 stages with his healing, and then we have sort of his hero Dracula look. So this is one stage shy. There's one more version of this where he's healing that we have yet to get to, because he's still healing.
So what is he, your fucking roommate? He's my servant.
Love that.
But you can see his hair is growing back, but it's still a little thin.
Yeah.
The sores are starting to close up. He's starting to look, you know, more like Dracula.
Right. And yeah, we do get to throw to the bats, and there were other animals and things that we wanted to explore. Him turning into a wolf, and in utilizing the rats as his children of the night to, you know, help more effectively encroach on Renfield's life. But we have big aspirations. Not everything gets to end up in the final cut.
Marvelous attire. Very colorful. You look like the sort of boy who has...
This is one of those great scenes I remember we did a couple hours of shooting this over and over and over again. I don't know why Chris had so many takes, but I enjoyed it because every take Nick was doing something different and doing a different performance and delivering something new. And it was just one of those pinch me moments on set where you're like, all right, this is Nick Cage being Nick Cage.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
I imagine that's why there were that many takes being done.
maybe.
It was fun to watch.
We were just having a good time.
He's terrifying in this scene.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the raw dailies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this scene is going to be great.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite.
It's an amazing scene.
And if you look at the actual set, you can see that Renfield is not a master painter.
No.
You know, he's a bit of a slapdash, but he's colorful.
He matches his sweater.
Yeah.
I want to make such a fish out of water. I mean, here you got this pallor black suit against all these neon, you know, throwback. It feels like late 80s threw up in, in the backdrop of Dracula.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Master.
I mean that in the kindest way, by the way.
Are you actually suggesting that...
I think he said this publicly, but I think he channeled his dad for some of this performance.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, he drew on a bunch of inspiration for the role outside of the previous Draculas that came before him. But yeah, he talked about how his dad spoke with kind of a mid-Atlantic accent, and he really wanted to try to embody the voice. He had the voice pretty early. We Zoomed with him in November of 21. He was on board later that month, and by December, he was basically off book and just fucking around with what his voice would sound like. So he came on strong to this role.
Well, when we were working in pre-production at the offices, and he wanted to come in and discuss scenes and pitch ideas and workshop stuff, and at one point, both of them were in the office with Chris and I in a small office, and all of a sudden Nicolas Cage starts doing the scene like it's a private play that I'm watching, and then Nicholas Hoult kind of is, of course, going along with it, and then all of a sudden he's on the floor. I think it was probably that scene and where he slices his belly open, but he's on the floor. Nicolas Cage is standing over him, and they're doing the whole scene, and then it ends, and I was like, okay, that was insane for me. And then later on, I found out it was insane for Nicholas Hoult, which you've been acting since you were 5. I don't understand. You've never experienced that before? He's like, oh no.
Yeah, it's unlike anything. Yeah.
I guess that's another way of saying, I guess many actors aren't as committed as Nicolas Cage, willing to just do a whole scene in an office for 2 dudes.
That's enough.
Yeah, but you guys really did have a decent amount of time to workshop. You know, that was something that was really critical to McKay was rehearsals and just trying to kind of allow the scene to find itself. So that way when we were shooting, because our schedule was so limited. So you guys got to do stuff not only in his office, but weren't you on set together too, kind of just trying stuff, Ryan, before we started shooting, just in the physical space?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember.
Once again, we shot in New Orleans, all right? I don't remember a lot.
And this whole bit too, Ryan, do you want to talk about just like the book and the title chapters? I'm still so sad that's not in it.
Oh, I didn't even know. Yeah, I mean, it's originally the idea, and that it's still the idea that he gets this book, which becomes like a Bible in the hands of a traditional vampire hunter, but now he's wielding, instead of, Christianity against a demon, he's wielding self-help against a narcissist. And so there was beats where the chapter headings are coming on, where he's actually saying all the lines, and then you see what he's referring to in each chapter, the different wisdom he's gained.
Yeah, it was quite funny, but because the performances were so incredible, they just didn't want to distract or take away from Nick's.
Mm-hmm.
You think Doug was murdered?
I can't say for sure, but
I hope he was fucking murdered. I hope he was torn to itty bitty pieces.
Yeah, this was another funny scene. A couple different takes of her just going off.
Yes.
On a different
Putting his dick in a blender.
Lots of dick jokes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Danya's great. She actually she worked with our casting director and was reading on Zoom opposite of people during their auditions. And we just enjoyed working with her so much that we had to find a role for her in the movie.
That's fun.
Great casting of
Oh,
all
really?
the
She was just
photo.
kind of brought in as like a stunt auditioner or something?
Well, yeah, like somebody to read lines opposite
wow.
with
No,
who's trying out.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
Her ad-libs were just
Yeah,
so
killer.
fun to watch.
And that's partially the shame talking, also the rash.
Renfield?
Can I get through one fucking share, please?
Is everyone okay?
There's a couple stunts in this scene that unfortunately didn't make it in the final cut, but they are at the end of the movie as well, when Bob gets thrown across the room and slammed into a chair. It's pretty killer.
Yeah, man.
Literally.
It's awesome. It's a bummer it didn't make the final film, but it is still in the movie. It's at the end, so keep an eye out for it. And nonetheless, the scene came out fantastic. I think it's really, really great.
Those shoes, again, a big shout out to Lisa.
It's quite the entrance.
Yes.
And this was our first day of shooting with Nick.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he was an entrance for everybody. Yeah.
Great way to start.
What happened to that coat? I want it. I'd wear that.
It's in my closet. I'm just kidding. I'll see what I can do.
Actually,
come October.
And I love the other costume that I absolutely love is the shirt that Teddy's wearing in the police station with the cat on it.
Yeah, that was a close call.
That's amazing.
Because we
That
almost
shirt
didn't
is-
get clearance for that.
Is it-
Kind of like day
Oh, I love
of or
that
day
shirt.
before, and we
I'm gonna find that shirt.
got it in. Lisa will know.
Okay.
Yeah, she sourced some great stuff. And her fittings with Cage were really fun.
Yeah, I
all the
bet.
different looks that they got to try. And he was just so obsessed with wearing as much jewelry as
That's
possible,
great.
specifically rings. He connected us with his ring guy almost immediately to get some of the jewelry started. But fur, sparkles, rhinestones, anything. He just ate it up.
Nicolas Cage's ring guy?
Yes.
I like that.
That's a job.
Yes.
It's like a story for Vice or something.
He could be your ring guy too, I'm sure. You say the right thing.
Dracula.
Okay, obviously.
Woo! This is when all you audience members should start cheering.
I should never have forsaken you.
Yeah, the studio also had a hard time with this scene because they were so worried that audiences wouldn't be able to go on the rest of the ride with us after seeing all of these characters that they loved so much get brutally murdered, which is part of the reason we ended up bringing them back at the very end of the film. They warmed all of our hearts so much.
That's what.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard scene to watch because you do grow to like his friends, you know.
Yeah, they make such an impact in
they get
small amount of
brutalized.
time.
Yes, yeah.
Small amount of screen time, and they're all just so great.
And we actually, for research, did speak with Codependence Anonymous people to kind of get a sense of how they run their meetings and try to inform the process a little bit.
And
Jamie,
how
do you want to
they
talk about this
handle
shot?
vampires?
Yeah, this you talk about Renfield flying back.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this was
also a big part of the choreography work that Brewster did in prep, and we matched a lot of the shots exactly. And in one of them, the case of Renfield flying back, we achieved that by first shooting a background plate on this location and then shooting him green screen so we could hang him and keep the camera a fixed distance from him, but move the camera in the background plate, which gave the illusion that he was flying backwards and enabled us to have the control to focus on him and get his performance without having to do a big stunt on location.
This is worse than death, Renfield.
And also the sound that you all did for that is so great, where it's like real visceral, it's loud, and then when we cut to him, it's real like sort of muted
Subjective
almost.
and
Yeah, subjective.
the contrast between like the slow
It's
and the
fantastic.
real time.
Really great job.
And then in color, where in each of we see him 5 times, I think. Each of those we're transitioning through all the different color light sources that are above them as well. So what just goes as a cool shot. I mean, there's so much work from every department.
Yeah.
So many corn cobs were sacrificed. I mean, I think at one point it got down to asking Chris whether he wanted a fresh corn cob or a dried
Do you
corn
want a dry
cob.
corn cob?
Are
Do
we
you want
looking at a shucked corn cob or
Organic.
It's like
Creamed corn.
creamed corn. Yeah. Little celery.
Ironically, in the movie Children of the Corn, they actually use human flesh.
Little known fact.
Yeah.
And when your audience is walking here, try to read the rules of the gymnasium. There's
Yeah, there's
a good
so
little
much
one in there.
great
Wait, what's that?
set deck.
There's a rule of like rule number 8 or something is I can't even remember it, but it's not a typical rule.
Oh.
No
yeah,
lighting.
the art department had a lot of fun writing some of the back.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, getting to approve some of the stuff they tried out put the biggest smile on my face.
The thing that was so funny, these scenes in particular, all the different directions that you guys shot, scenes that were like this scene in particular, like this could go funny, this could go kind of the way it ended up. You know,
I'm
It's
sure
like there's so many different varieties.
And we showed you a lot of those.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. We went
Until
through
we landed
so
on
many iterations.
this,
Yeah. Yeah, like Chris was asking where he got his sweater at one point. I'm like, what?
Yes.
Yep.
And there was a terrific boob job
Yes.
joke right here.
He did the money for his wife's
Where-
surgery.
Yes, he says, she asks him, Chris, why'd you do it? And he said, my wife, she's never had more confidence since the surgery. And Rebecca goes, her boob job? And we tried so many different ways to keep it in and just couldn't
I do miss
tonally
that
nail
one.
it. Yeah.
Another fantastic Bella outfit.
Yes.
Look, Quizzy,
Such a class act.
I want to offer.
And now she's getting cast as a mobster more and more ever since she did this one.
Space. In fact, Kyle's parking space. Hey, fuck you, Kyle.
Poor Kyle.
Big shout out to TC. He's a lot of fun. He's great on set.
Mm-hmm.
But success really is the best revenge.
Jamie, did we use drones here?
Yeah, there's one shot
Okay,
when the
that's what I
cars
thought.
arrive is a drone shot. And so mixing some different camera formats here, bringing it all together in post. And another fun example of just how to use all the different colors, the primary colors, the palette from the cop cars, the palette from the street lights. Bring this world into sort of the overall palette of our movie.
Yeah, real tricky scene to actually grade. We did it multiple times because you have different light sources, the cop cars, and then making it all seem like it's all at exactly the same time, no matter what angle.
Yes. Oh, man, we were really under the gun.
Sun came up fast
Yes.
that night.
There is a shot where Aquafina drives off there. If you look, you can see that the sun's come up, but we've darkened it down, but there's a bit more light in the sky.
Same thing when we were shooting outside the hospital. We were trying to get magic hour and only had probably like 2 takes that one time. We were fighting daylight and nighttime, a lot on this film.
Yeah, the first time we shot there and the sun came up so quick. And then I went back and shot second unit, and I remember thinking, boy, I'm really going to have to move fast here. Next thing I knew, it was happening to me.
Right. Yeah, we had weather issues all throughout. There was a tornado that took place when we were shooting in the murder room.
Yeah.
There was something else. I'm trying to think. But yeah, we really couldn't catch a break.
Pain Renfield caused you. I will return.
We had some great versions of this scene too, where he sort of looks off here, and like we would go into like a dream of his, perfect world apocalypse, but just for time, we just felt it was more concise in this way.
How does that sound?
Another great thing about this set was really you could look 360 degrees and almost straight up and still all be on the set. We had 1 or 2 shots where maybe we had to frame out or paint out some truss up there, but other than that, all in camera.
That's something that's also really important to McKay is, shooting things practically. He doesn't like just throwing up a green screen and doing it. It's so important to him to be able to shoot it in camera. And a lot of what was driving the relationship with you, Christian, and having you on board for that and making sure, we can talk about it more when we get to the apartment scene, but very, very important to Chris to be able to do practical blood effects.
Yeah, practical effects in general, he, and rightfully so, loves that sort of energy and spontaneity that you get out of doing this kind of work practically and on set.
I feel like when we tested the movie, the thing that people kept coming back to was just how crazy the action scenes were with the practical. Everybody kept referencing the face rip, the hand rip, the something rip, the arm rip, I just love because they weren't expecting it.
Yeah, and I think, especially in the scene that's coming up here, when you take that stuff over the top, that really is what Renfield, as a movie is about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Captures the tone.
There's part of, the genre of, I'll say modern horror, I'm talking the last, say, 40 years, is so much of these iconic moments that we've had are from movies like from the 80s or 70s, where you had no choice. Yeah. So when you see it on a modern film, there's just something that makes you want to cheer and go, yes, this is what it was about.
Like a weird nostalgia or something.
Yeah, and then you augment it, but you can't tell the augment has happened. And so you get all of the cool visceral stuff.
Yeah. Well, and to Chris's and James' credit here, a lot of that was by design from the beginning, when so often we could have said, this is going to be a difficult shot, this is going to take a lot of time during the day, this is going to require a lot of setup, or like you said, even staging in such a way where the stage is going to have to be, somewhat conducive to the effect as opposed to the opposite. And, James really helped wrangle and coordinate between Chris's vision, what I needed to build to bring it together, because ultimately you knew you were going to be enhancing, touching it somewhere, correcting, pulling a tube out of frame, painting it out, whatever it might be, in order for us to do it efficiently and to create it practically.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into these effects that you don't necessarily think about when you see it on the screen. How long does it take to clean it up after take 2? How long does it take to prep the actor? how does it affect the actor's performance to have the rig there? And so, yeah, that's one of the things that all of our departments, stunts, makeup, visual effects, we all work together, art department, to find the right solution that sort of gave us the tone and helped the performance and told the story.
Yeah, and how it would affect our day. You know, a lot of it is just math, is literally counting up the amount of minutes it takes for some of these resets. Are we doing the first couple clean, figuring out so that we were not running out of time? Because again, this was such a location-based shoot, and we were in some of these spots for a day, 2 days, 3 days when we really needed 6, 7, or 8 to get it done. And so we were under the gun any which way you slice it.
Yeah.
Care, feeding, anything, especially during the daylight hours.
Like you get Dracula people to eat?
I do other stuff too.
One of my favorite laughs a minute ago when that gun comes up, perfectly timed.
Yes.
President?
Yes.
Yeah.
Try clean his cape.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
I
Love
bought
it.
into your bullshit.
Yeah, Nora's just so great.
You're not even a villain. You're just a guy.
And they had such a nice bond too, both on set and off set. They became great friends.
What?
Rebecca,
Camille,
you were right.
there was a lot of, specifically the scenes with Kate and Rebecca, they riff off each other really well too. There was a lot of improv on both sides, and we had a lot to pick from in terms of performance.
He's probably 70 or 80 years old, and he might be the most prolific serial killer the world has ever known. So where are you?
Where am I? I'm at his place, but it's okay because he's in my custody. And he had made me some cookies.
He didn't eat the cookies.
They have a great sibling relationship on screen. It's just a little bit antagonistic, but also very loving.
Right.
Could see it all through the movie.
I don't know who we can trust. Meet me at Cafe Du Monde in 20 minutes.
Okay, just
Yeah, and there's stuff like there's little things like there's a photo of Aquafina and Kate and their dad on her desk, and things like that take a lot of coordination. We have to cast the father. We have to find time in between their shooting schedules to get a photo of them. For stuff that's taken for granted really does take a lot of time behind the scenes to coordinate.
All units, you have the green light. Commence attack.
We need to find a bug, now.
Why?
Their life force gives me power.
Their life force gives you power?
Yes, it's confusing, but trust me, it works. Any second now, a shit ton of guys are coming up those stairs. If you want me to do what I did at the restaurant, we need to find a bug, now.
You two with me! Go, go, go!
Come on, a juicy spider and... Yes!
Another nice handoff between location. The interior of this is a stage.
Right.
And when you're looking out through the door, that is a backdrop and a partial build outside the door there.
Yeah, and this interior was used 3 times over, right? Because that's actually Renfield.
Yes, we changed it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Movie magic.
Practical glass stunt with some CG glass over the shot of Nick Holt.
Yeah, shout this stuff out, but just a huge shout out to our stunt team. It's just all so seamless where, you know, Holt starts and James ends.
Yeah.
And same thing with Jade, too, and Aquafina.
There was a lot of footage for the scene, a lot. But once you start getting in there, it really cut itself. I mean, there was a lot of versions of this scene, but they all were just tweaks. They were never like, you know, drastic changes in the choreography or anything, because it all really worked.
Best moment in the movie.
Yeah. There are so many questions about like, wait, how did you do that stunt? How did you do this?
Yeah, well, Kristen, tearaway arms.
Yeah.
I do miss the hand getting
That's
pulled
in the
off.
end credits.
It's in the credits.
Oh, the dehanding?
Yeah, that dehanding.
The handing.
The flesh dehanding. This was one of those, tearing off the arms ended up being one of those situations where it's like, what did I get myself into trying to say that we could do this well? Because it became such a oh, wow.
And the scream there is from the original stuntman,
It
right?
is.
Yeah. I mean,
The
it's
actor's
so
scream.
great. It's like,
You know what's amazing
Yeah.
is we had so much blood on set, and yet there's gallons more here that James is
We've added
like this. That's
yeah,
great.
This is all added, and coming up here, we had a really cool practical gag where the blood comes up off the hood of the car, the roof of the car, and
Yeah, Matt
Chris,
Kutcher and all them built that big cannon
Yeah,
with the blood.
big shout out to
and Chris
Kutcher,
is,
special effects.
Chris is definitely in the more camp, so
Yes.
we did add a little more to that practical stuff.
Which is wonderful.
And this was interesting. This is a really long and complicated wire removal for safety for the actors to come off of this car with all these bodies on it. It really was a dangerous thing. They're up 8 feet in the air, and so we did put a wire on them and remove it all through this dialogue here.
And it's all slippery because it is all blood. And
Yeah, we had taped like Velcro or something onto the car to help with the grip, or there was something.
I think there was like some double stick tape just
Yeah.
to help them. Yeah.
The treatment that you all did to the music in that scene is great because the song as is was very high end. I know you guys sort of broke it out, right? And sort of made it like a little bit of both, but also punchy where it needed to be, but not.
Well, we were able to get some stem separation on
Yeah.
it. And so we were able to,
Came out great.
when you're dealing with a stereo track, everything's forced up into the screen channels. And when you're in a big action sequence like that, you want to have spread so you can
Right.
still feel the music and hear it, but also get all the on-screen action. And
Yeah.
so,
Came out.
yeah, it would really turned out great.
Yeah.
This is a great introduction to Dracula to her. But what we did, and we did it quite a bit during the movie, depending on if Dracula is trying to hypnotize people, but we really lent into traditional light sashes across the eye so that it feels like those old movies. And we didn't track it perfectly. Like, we did it as though someone was standing at the side with a light and lighting up his eyes to really just feel like those old movies that we really love. But it was, we did it whenever we wanted to really hypnotize the person that he was talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was the same kind of thought going into the soundtrack at the same time too. It's like reality slowly kind of peels away, and before you realize it, all you're hearing is Dracula's voice and slight treatment on it during those moments.
Dracula's castle.
You had a family?
Dead.
The infamous Cafe Du Monde.
This was
right?
Nancy. Anything to say about this scene? Wasn't this?
Oh, goodness. This is a tough one sonically just because of the birds, the crowds.
We're
Environment.
shooting this kind of during the day. It's just a typical day in New Orleans. As much as ITC as we have, it's definitely not enough. And we're shooting it also like throughout different times of the day. There's a ton of street vendors. There's horse and buggy carriages across the street. There's all
Calliope.
there's a noise from the river behind
There's
you
a
and all the
riverboat.
boats. Yeah.
All different things. Yeah, we luckily, between our crew and mixer, Tim LeBlanc, were able to clean this up into something that was discernible.
Yeah, and like you didn't,
And without,
without any ADR, right? You didn't.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Because the performances were we just didn't want to touch that if we didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
My family, but that.
Visually, it's the same thing. If you actually really stare at the image, clouds are going in and out, and on the wide shots, it's very different. So to pull all of this in visually as well to make it feel like it's all at the same time, but New Orleans really brought out everything for this scene.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't actually where Cafe Du Monde is located.
No,
is that
it's
right?
not. It's
About 40. You can see it in the background there.
It's down the stairs
Yeah.
too, but they were really gracious and let us kind of adapt it to the spot that we needed it to be.
And you got that great
Yeah,
church in the back. I assume that's a
Jackson
church,
Square.
right?
Yeah, Jackson Square,
Square,
and
yeah.
then the church in the background.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call her.
We did some fun stuff here for like the Dracula vision, like through Renfield's eyes. So, colors are all muted
Blur
out
corner.
except for red. So it's like, how would Dracula see victims or whatever? But it's through his perception. We've got smearing. But yeah, just to feel like it's It's not necessarily what Renfield is seeing, it's what Dracula is seeing through Renfield.
Where's my sister?
I offered you so much, Rebecca, but you put your
Love her voice.
Yeah.
The quality of it is just crazy.
The fragile institutions line is kind of a nod, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've got your sister. She doesn't have much time.
Rebecca, where are you going?
To get my sister.
Rebecca, you don't understand. It's not just the Lobos, it's...
Yeah, you can, once they kind of step out of their little table, you can see how much is actually going on in the background.
He killed people I cared about.
I think there's like 3 or 4 takes that we just were unusable because of cop cars going by. Just like fire engines.
That tracks.
Shooting in the real world.
Yeah.
You're never really going to be free until you face him.
You care about me.
Is that what it takes to get you in the car?
All right, if we're going to do this...
That's when the sun was going down.
Yeah,
too.
right at the end of the day.
And we need... we still got this and this to do, and we got 30 minutes. Let's go.
Let's face it. They know we're coming. So let's go and stop.
Is that what we
We
meant?
took that shot out of all the cop cars flying by. I was
There
just
was
thinking
a moment. Yeah.
the amount of miles I ran that day.
But I think there was another time, though, where there was
Right,
actual...
Yeah.
Everybody had to get out of the way.
Maybe a protection circle.
Has anybody mentioned anything about the wolf snorting cocaine
On the side of the car.
side of the car?
Yeah.
We have it again. Alec Hammond.
It's
I
like-
mean, we cannot say enough good things about Alec.
The
and
details.
I wish he wasn't in Thailand and was here with us right now.
Oh, yeah. In that bait shop, if you freeze frame on the signs in the bait shop, there's a lot of misspelled poor grammar
yeah.
signage.
You know, it's a bait shop.
We're pretty sure that was legit.
Yeah.
And we shot it both ways, spelled properly and misspelled. And we thought misspelled was funny.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's more better.
Eating the worms, another great prop thing, gummy worms and crumbled up Oreos for
And they
dirt.
look-
Yummy.
They look fantastic.
Yeah.
That's from a Pinterest page. You guys get that?
I'll have to ask
Like a
Gary
kid's
and
birthday
Mike.
party?
Tumblr.
Tumblr. Right. I always thought this scene would be great with Bella. Bella should have,
Jumped into the
she should have
action.
jumped into the action and kicked some ass.
She probably could. She could take you, John.
I know she could. That's why I would have loved to watch her.
This is her most fabulous look, I think. And those
Love that
tattoos on.
centipede.
Yeah, Tinsy,
Yeah,
you want
this-
to talk about the tattoos?
Oh, right.
Again, just another collaboration with Chris. We wanted to do something for Ben, kind of take him out of what people are normally used to seeing him as and sort of add some texture to him. There's a lot of little details built into the tattoo design, taken from New Orleans history. You know, you see it as shapes on his body, but there's a lot of fun little details in there.
What was the area code?
The area code, there was obviously the fleur de lis, there's, the city landscape in there. We have some nods to a few different things. I'd have to go back and look at it, to be honest with you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Afternoon, officer.
Shit.
The other thing in this scene, I love pinball machine, and there's
Yeah.
a pinball there, and even though it's always out of focus, it's the Lobo family
Yep.
pinball. So if it was ever in focus, that back glass
Yes.
is them.
And we have a real actor who is encased in the coffin, which you can't see right now, also out of frame.
father, right?
But yeah, exactly.
Father Lobo.
Teddy Lobo's dad,
No
Bella's
way.
husband. Just laid in that coffin for 5 days straight.
The irony of
gig.
a movie where people are brought back to life with Dracula blood, and yet they didn't think
Yeah.
to use it on the dead patriarch of the Lobo family. He could have been helpful here.
He could have come in with some jabs. And a lot of our stunt utility team, those were the guys that were jumping down from the balcony to the floor. So those guys were utilized. They had the wolf masks on. They were driving the cars. They were used all throughout. They were the SWAT team in the apartment scene. And so it was really great to be able to showcase so many of them. And those guys didn't need wires. They just did all that parkour on their own.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think one of them was Spider-Man, like the stunt Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
I think a lot of them were Marvel stunt people, yeah.
Yeah.
We really wanted to bring up the horror as an intro here. Hopefully that gets a jump scare.
A lot of work on Nick's face here again. The hypnosis as he's being his most charming to Rebecca.
Only imagine what you might have heard about me from poor Renfield.
Yeah, it really all culminates here in them meeting.
We did, however.
And the suit was leaked. The paparazzi were on our asses when we were shooting, and this was.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's my side hustle.
Good work.
That's why I got into movies, to get money from
the paps.
Yeah.
Nice.
More Bone Crunch.
Hell yeah.
There's lots of more Bone Crunch quotes.
Very crunchy.
Very crunchy.
But also, I mean, the important thing to remember too is, right, that theoretically, like, all of his cronies like ate bugs and became
familiars.
Yeah, familiars. So they're stronger. So the sound complements like their fight. You know, it's really great.
That was another important part that Chris was really adamant about, was just making sure that, you know, the supernatural punches sound like
Different.
supernatural punches.
Right.
And they're not just,
It's
over
not
the
your
top.
regular fist fight.
No.
I looked into yours. Renfield used only the smallest.
Some great physical work by Nick Holt there.
Yes, and shooting this was quite the day that we had to kind of get all this stuff done.
Yeah, recall these as some of our longer days.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I think we ended up having got to be around 62 or 63 setups.
Wow. Yeah.
It was really nuts. Yeah. We're talking about specifically the Ben Schwartz and Nick Holt fighting scene.
My blood will bring her back.
No.
Say the word, Rebecca, and I will undo what the Lobos.
Chris Adrian Martinez's character was originally the one pushing that
yes.
her body into that, and obviously he was digitally removed.
Yes.
And also, therefore, never has his comeuppance. He's somewhere out here in the world of Renfield, having gotten away with it.
Yeah, motorboating his wife.
We don't even know why he turned bad. He might not even have a wife.
It's all a mystery.
Hand off to a digital double and then back to a stunt here.
Wow.
If you notice too, his little coffin is right at the bottom of the screen when he falls here. We thought sort of after the fact that it would be great if right before the kick, you know, it would give him a little extra if he ate the bug one last time. Boom.
Here we are missing a perfect opportunity for a fart joke.
Yes. Yeah, this was Kirkman, right? Kirkman really wanted to see everything come out of both ends.
Yeah.
Classic.
They
Robert.
went with the blood, though. I like the blood splatters. What we saw at the
that's-
end was just a nice choice.
That's all James there. That's we didn't have the time to do anything on that day.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun matching the color and the viscosity.
It's a much classier version of that than we were talking about on set, though. There was a few ideas about what's coming out of both ends.
We did have especially in the last wide shot where we do see fluid coming out of both ends. We did have a lot of discussion about what color, those
are the days when you're
fluids
like,
should be.
living the dream.
Yeah, what a job. What a job.
I've found using 100% correct anatomical terms is the only way to go.
Poopy?
Oh, he thought it was funny too.
Yeah, you got a laugh from Cage. Nice.
Open shades.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, so this is fun. So when
cool.
when the light hits him and he starts to burn and turns into bats, the bats are still exposed to the light. So they're trailing embers and smoke as they fly around.
Yeah, that's great.
And then you'll see as they go downstairs here and out of the light, then it starts to wind down. And so this was some great animation, flocking animation to work with the performance of the actors and motivate their fall. And where did he go? So also a location in New Orleans with a really heavy dress. Really nice work.
This was their tornado day.
Former church. Yes, this was our tornado day, and we had so much to shoot. And a former church that Alec turned into our murder room, complete with a guillotine.
And particularly with the amount of stunt work that's coming up here, really nice job of incorporating some of the stunt rigging that was required to do the scene into the production design of the movie, so you really don't think about it.
Those tresses up top. And originally this was supposed to be a pool. Is there water there? Or I can't remember now.
No.
No, okay.
By the way, fun fact, it's also the church from 22 Jump Street that becomes their, or is it maybe both of them? Is their police
their
station?
headquarters?
Headquarters?
Yeah.
Someone
that
who
is
worked on the
funny.
movie told me that worked on that as well.
Oh, I didn't know. Hi, Phil and Chris.
That was a CG growing fang there, but Christian, you had multiple sizes and versions of the practical fangs that we used too.
Yeah, there was an idea at the very beginning that we did play with a couple times, and then we thought best just to kind of leave it to Poe so he can continue to do his performance. And again, time of switching out dentures. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was this idea that his fangs grow longer than what you typically see them as, and they kind of serpentine out in a way. It was a lot leading up to this moment of having this sort of Wolverine style, fang hands. Yeah.
Awesome.
As we come to find out here, they're used as weapons.
Renfield's in this world, and they're all Rebecca.
And here we get a nice callback to some of the Dracula powers that we learned at the beginning of the movie, the transition to bats, the transition to smoke.
They're all trying to figure out how to overcome their destructive...
I still want a Renfield shirt that says, "You can't take my teeth." I'm going to make it if someone else does.
Tagline.
The dark poetry.
We can work on that.
Millions
Or a hat, at least.
like me.
All you gotta do is take it back.
Do you know?
This cutting back to the Dakota group was that a last minute re-edition? Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And I remember I saw it earlier and
Cool.
I heard it wasn't going to be there, so it's nice to see it back.
Yep. It's really important to Chris to have that in there.
A codependent.
You're right.
Now, I thought this movie was going to be the cocaine movie of Universal's release schedule.
Somehow.
And then
Got upstaged.
Cocaine Bear, an entire movie about a vicious monster and cocaine. So they really beat us.
Shooting these punches, too, was super cool. Colt's like basically punching into a bunch of sandbags.
Yeah.
And just getting that reverberation on the camera.
Look into my eyes, Dracula.
Even the reverses onto Dracula, seeing the hands come in, very effective.
Yeah.
Oof. That punch still gets me. It's brutal.
And it's all augmented, so if you still frame through it, you will see it going.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's great.
Our protection circle here was just a ring of LED lights that we rigged up, and we painted out the wires that lead to them and covered up the rig itself. But it was really crucial to get actual practical light onto the actors for the effect. And then we added all the flames and everything on top of it.
Yeah, in this scene, the interactive light on them is truly interactive. On the scene at the beginning of the movie when Dracula's in the ring, there is some it didn't really read.
Yeah, when
So-
he's up high, about 10 feet up above it, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all augmented, and we did that in the grade. So all that flicker is a synthetic flicker, but this is a genuine.
I love this song choice here. Great juxtaposition
Who is it?
tone.
Who's the artist?
I don't remember.
So it sounds kind of like Willie Nelson or something.
It's not Willie
It's
Nelson.
not.
He can't afford Willie
All right. Okay.
But yeah, no, it's tough. Big shout out to Gabe Hilford too, our music supervisor, because it was really tricky to find the balance between needle drops and score. And he was so helpful with the amount of options that he brought to the table. But this was one of those decisions where we made it on stage. A lot of stuff is not planned. And, you've got 2 days before you got to turn in a movie. You have to decide.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little fun. But
That line that he just delivered that culminates in Hail Satan was something Nicolas Cage wrote.
That's right.
And emailed. And I was like, what? Dracula's going to say what before he's killed?
And
And then I just goes like, because you have something in your mind and your tone and a style. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give into it because it's Nicolas Cage writing his own Dracula lines. There's something beautiful about it. Now I'm like, oh, it works great. I wouldn't want to not see it.
Yeah, and when he saw it, the movie for the first time, he said, I can't believe they let me keep Pale Satan.
I was fucking with you guys. You actually put that in the movie?
I feel like that's the kind of thing that's going to get like TikToked or something.
Yes,
The Hail
a
Satan
lot of
thing.
memes.
Somebody
I
gets
know.
excited about something.
gonna
Hail
be a
Satan.
gif.
You know?
I've been working with the digital team on exactly stuff like that.
Cool. That's fun.
I'm like, can we get more memes of the movie, please?
Should have had him dancing. That's the key.
Oh, man.
The Dracula dance.
Yeah, there was a dance number, right?
There was
Oh.
a dance number.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The dancing man.
It's in the credits.
In the
Oh,
credits.
good. Yay.
Yeah, Holt and our choreographer, Kat Burns, spent a number of weeks rehearsing this awesome dance sequence. And when we watched the whole movie together, we just, felt kind of like a double back on the montage. And emotionally, it didn't track in a way that felt holistic to the film. So unfortunately, we had to take it out. But the dance sequence is great. I hope one day it sees the light of day.
I had no idea until I saw that Holt is such an amazing
He's
dancer.
amazing at everything.
There's nothing he can't do.
He's really impressive.
Yeah.
You're right. As we're getting to the end now, I'm realizing, like, well, what happened to that scene? What happened to that? There's
There's
a
stuff
lot
that
of moments.
seen
Yeah.
that I've seen it so many times, and I'm like, oh yeah.
This series of lines from Mark coming up right here is
Perfect.
I think
His
it's completely
laugh at-
improv.
The
Is
laugh
it
at the end's my
Pretty sure
favorite.
we're come back from the other side. Maybe not. Ryan,
What was that?
He does some lines here about coming back from the other side.
See
seeing
things you can't unsee.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure it's improv.
Fantastic.
I don't think it was in the script, right?
No,
was.
that was a
Those were, you write the pages, print them out on set, give them to the
yeah,
actors.
it was the
all
last
in.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great. I love it. It's so funny.
Yeah, he nails it.
Yeah.
So good.
He's so great.
My name is Robert Montague Renfield.
We had a dance scene here too that we tried
That's right.
and had brought back. Adrian actually brought back Chris the cop and Fuck You Kyle the cop.
Yeah, and they're dancing in prison gear. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find the power to do that, then maybe everyone can.
Yeah, we didn't really even touch on the VO, but that too was an element that was brought in into post. Guys, does anyone have any final thoughts on the film? Anything they didn't get to share? Should we just tell each other that we're all
Everyone
great
did a
and-
great job.
Yeah, really
Great job,
terrific
We
work.
did it. We did it.
And so many people we did invite to this crew commentary that because everybody's so goddamn talented, they are working.
We're the
and
unemployed.
unable
We're the
to be-
unemployed.
We're the unemployed.
We're in between gigs, as they say. No, we got a movie to promote.
I haven't seen this yet.
That's good. There's a lot of Easter eggs and stuff at the very, very end. But to your point, Samantha, about the VO, it was a tricky balance, in particular in the beginning of the movie, just to making the assumption of like what do audiences already know about what a familiar is and things like that. How do we articulate that if it's not tracking? So we did end up with some VO, especially in the beginning, but as you notice, it kind of trails off, maybe 20 or so minutes into the movie. It kind of doesn't really come back.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules in this world. It's important to set them up
Right.
and make sure the audience is on board, and then you can
Exactly.
kind of forget them.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Although it does come back when the
Restaurant?
it comes back in the restaurant for a second,
Coda
but
kill?
Coda kill.
Yeah.
After that, he's sort of atoning
Right.
to himself.
Big props to Picture Mill on this title sequence and on the end credits. They did just an incredible job. We didn't have that much time with them, but they came to us with a million and one ideas. It was honestly so challenging to pick which look worked best, but we ended up kind of riffing with the Coda
Sunshine.
world, and it looks really fun and great. And they had a great time working on it too. They told us, so we'll believe them.
This is a dumb question. But
Yeah.
Is it no such thing, right? Someone's got to
No,
say
come
that.
on, Ryan. No such
Is that all
thing.
digital, that sequence?
All digital.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
fully. With, the assets. but all digital. And
This
too,
looks
the,
great here.
The
Holy
Renfield,
cow.
it's cool.
you know, at the end between the main onions and the end credits, that was, you know, something Alec designed too, just as an homage to the earlier films. But people really took a lot of inspiration and ran with it, and it turned out great. So a big thanks to all of you and to everybody who is not here and to our awesome cast.
Well, thanks for making a movie.
Yeah,
No, thanks for
Someone had
thanks for
to.
doing it. Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah, and when we miss you, Chris.
That's not in the movie, in the
not.
main.
Oh, all
That's
these
right.
end credit moments. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm watching this.
How come that shot of Bob getting thrown was not in the main movie?
They just felt like it was too violent, too brutal.
That's
and
crazy.
A lot of,
The ripping the face off wasn't.
Right.
yeah, listen, the heart wants
What's
what
the
it wants.
what's the point of rating a movie R and then
Yeah, that's what people want.
pulling your punch,
Yeah.
pulling your head smash?
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, there was, you know, a lot of back and forth. You have to make a lot of compromises at the end of the day. But the studio was terrific. They were great partners. We're so appreciative to Universal because they really got this thing and let McKay run with it.
I'm really digging this
Camera
end
test.
credit.
You can
Look.
see Renfield crawling around on the back.
Was that song over the credits the biggest needle drop? Was that because you said that the song when they're chopping up Dracula was not like Willie Nelson would have been too expensive, but then I recognized
That's
the
because
credits
it's a
song.
Stones cover. So the cover's cheaper.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the trick.
Yes, lots of tricks like that. And then this is, you know, Marco's compilation essentially, and even score that he had written for the movie that we didn't get to keep. He included some of that too in this thing. Big shout out to Marco and his.
He scored
producer, Bob
Scream,
Sanders.
right? Didn't he score Scream?
Marco's done a ton
There's
of
the hand.
Oh,
yeah.
And there was like a wet spank right in the face.
Yeah.
It was great.
And he falls over after.
Yeah.
It's very hot shots.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the other thing I would have liked to have seen, and I'm sure there's is the movie about to end? I'm not going to finish my sentence. I'm nervous.
No.
Okay.
You've got.
There is some stuff where Renfield and Rebecca, which is also day of, maybe even hour of writing the last bit of dialogue, where it sort of references what they would do from here, and it's her wanting to go find other monsters, and then the review, you know, meaning assumingly Frankensteins or creatures or werewolves, and you find out Renfield is not aware of any of those other monsters existing, which is essentially a fun way to, I don't know, negate the idea of an expanded universe.
Yes, that was where they were coming from on that one. But guys, if you want a sequel to Renfield, start emailing this guy, Peter Kramer, and let him know, and we will show up and get you another movie. No questions asked.
Do you have his email address on hand? Just
No,
text me
no.
and I'll get it to you.
No, but I have his cell phone number. Is that okay?
That'll work. Now the movie's going to end, Ryan.
One more thing. The most interesting fact of all about this movie is
20 seconds.
Oh.
Oh, man,
Keep
yeah.
going. Got to keep going.
Nicolas Cage whispered in my ear the secret of life, and it is to always.
What is it? What is it, man?
Get a ring guy.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
Fantastic.